classroom was silent, except for the ticking clock on the wall. Rows of students sat frozen, their eyes shifting nervously toward the tall, sharp-faced teacher standing at the board. Mr. Howard was known for his strictness, an elite math teacher who believed only brilliant minds deserved respect. And today, his target was someone unexpected, a quiet woman sitting at the back of the room, wearing a faded cardigan and clutching her notebook tightly. Her name was Clara. She wasn't one of his students, just a janitor who had come in to clean early. When she accidentally dropped her mop near the whiteboard, Mr. Howard turned sharply. His tone dripped with disdain as he said, "Since you're so eager to interrupt my class, perhaps you can solve this equation for us?" The students chuckled under their breath, thinking this was about to be another embarrassing moment. Just one more example of the teacher's arrogance. Clara's hands trembled as she looked at the board filled with complex numbers and symbols. But something strange happened. Her gaze steadied. The fear in her eyes slowly turned into focus. Mr. Howard crossed his arms, waiting for her to fail. The students watched with smirks, already expecting laughter to follow. But Clara quietly picked up the chalk. Her movements were calm, deliberate, almost graceful. She started writing, step by step, her logic unfolding like poetry. The room grew still. Even the teacher's expression began to change. No one knew who this woman really was, or the life she had left behind. But as she finished the last line of the equation, something in that room shifted forever. Before anyone could speak, Mr. Howard's voice broke the silence, trembling slightly. Where did you learn that?" Clara didn't answer right away. She just looked at the chalkboard, her fingers still dusted white, as if lost in a memory. The students were whispering now, their earlier laughter replaced by quiet confusion. Mr. Howard stepped closer, his arrogance fading into curiosity. "That formula," he said, "it's not something an average person could just figure out." Clara smiled faintly but didn't look at him. Instead, she gently placed the chalk back on the tray and turned toward the door. "Sometimes," she said softly, "you don't need a degree to understand patterns. You just need to see them." After she left, the classroom buzzed with questions. Who was she? How could a janitor solve a problem even the advanced students struggled with? Mr. Howard tried to regain his composure, but something about her words unsettled him. He felt a strange sense of familiarity, as if he had read her name somewhere before. Later that evening, unable to focus, he searched through old university archives online. When the name Clara Monroe appeared on his screen, his breath caught. She had once been a top mathematics researcher, one who had published theories years ahead of her time, only to suddenly disappear. Meanwhile, Clara walked home through the quiet streets, her old shoes scuffing the pavement. She passed by the small community center where she sometimes tutored children for free. No one there knew about her past. To them, she was just kind Miss Clara who helped with homework. But inside, she carried the weight of choices made long ago. Choices that forced her to walk away from everything she loved. Back in his office, Mr. Howard stared at the glowing screen, the truth beginning to form. Tomorrow, he decided, he would speak to her again. But deep down, he sensed that her story was far more complicated than he could imagine. The next day, the school seemed different, almost electric. Rumors of Clara's unexpected brilliance had spread among the students, though most hadn't seen the full equation she had solved. Whispers followed her as she moved through the hallways, casual and unassuming, yet carrying an aura that made everyone pause. Even the teachers exchanged glances, unsure how to react. Mr. Howard, however, was restless. He couldn't shake the feeling that Clara's presence was more than coincidence. During his first class, he tried to focus on his lesson, but every time he looked toward the back of the room, he imagined her chalk-stained hands and calm expression. He knew one thing. He had to uncover the truth. He decided to ask her directly to come into his office under the guise of tutoring, a chance to probe her knowledge. Meanwhile, the students were quietly forming alliances, some curious, some envious, trying to figure out who Clara really was. A few bold ones started whispering about challenging her, testing the limits of her hidden genius, though none dared approach openly. Clara, unaware of the storm she had stirred, kept her routine. She continued her work quietly, helping with minor school tasks and tutoring children at the community center. But even she felt the tension in the air. She sensed eyes on her at every corner, conversations stopping when she walked by. Something in the way Mr. Howard studied her unsettled her, reminding her of the high-stakes world she had left behind, a world of academic rivalry, jealousy, and power struggles. The deeper he dug, the more he realized her mind was extraordinary, capable of solving problems he had spent years wrestling with. But there was another layer, rumors of unfinished work, hidden theories, and a mystery that even Clara seemed to keep to herself. As the day ended, the tension hung thick in the air. One question lingered in everyone's minds. Was Clara's return purely chance, or was something much bigger about to unfold? Days passed, and the atmosphere in the school grew heavier with curiosity and quiet tension. Every glance toward Clara seemed charged with anticipation. Students whispered about her in hushed tones, daring each other to ask impossible questions, while teachers exchanged uneasy glances. Mr. Howard, consumed by his own obsession, decided it was time to confront her publicly. He planned a challenge, something no one else had ever attempted in his classroom, an advanced problem designed to test even the brightest minds. And he would watch Clara, ready to see if she truly was the genius everyone feared she might be. When the day arrived, the classroom was unusually silent. Mr. Howard wrote a series of equations on the board, each more complex than the last, carefully crafted to intimidate. Clara sat at the back as always, her hands folded on her notebook, her expression calm. Some students exchanged nervous glances, sensing the tension. The air felt heavy, as if time had slowed. Mr. Howard's voice cut through the silence. "I want someone to solve this," he said, his eyes fixed on Clara. "And I expect precision." Clara's fingers itched, and for a moment, the memories of her past life, the late nights, the breakthroughs, the pressure flashed in her mind. She could feel the weight of expectation, the curiosity, even the envy pressing down on her. Yet she also sensed something else, a challenge, an unspoken test of who she really was now, and whether she would let the world see it. As she slowly stood, chalk in hand, the students held their breath. Mr. Howard's gaze hardened, a mixture of doubt and anticipation flickering in his eyes. Every move Clara made seemed deliberate, every calculation a statement. The room felt electric, the suspense unbearable. No one knew what would happen next, not the students, not the teachers, not even Mr. Howard. And in that moment, the classroom became more than a place of learning. It was the stage for a confrontation that could change everything, a collision of hidden talent, pride, and curiosity. The tension was at its peak, and everyone waited, hearts pounding, for Clara's next move. Clara's chalk hovered over the board, her movements precise but slow, giving the room enough time to feel the weight of the moment. Suddenly, the classroom door burst open, startling everyone. A young man in a crisp suit stepped inside, carrying a stack of papers and a laptop. "Professor Howard," he said sharply, "I think you need to see this." The interruption drew all eyes, and even Clara paused mid-step, her calm demeanor flickering for the first time. Mr. Howard frowned, irritation mixing with curiosity. The man handed him the papers, and as Mr. Howard scanned them, his face drained of color. The documents contained excerpts from research papers, Clara's work, published under a different name, with references to a breakthrough theory that could revolutionize the field. But more shocking, one section hinted at a secret collaboration with a powerful institution, something no one in the school had known. Whispers erupted among the students. Clara's quiet, simple persona now seemed like a carefully guarded mask hiding a world of brilliance and secrets. Clara felt a surge of unease. She hadn't expected her past to catch up so suddenly, especially not in front of an audience of students who now looked at her with a mixture of awe and suspicion. Mr. Howard's expression shifted from disbelief to frustration. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" he demanded, his voice tight with both anger and awe. The tension between them was electric. The students leaned forward, sensing the stakes had just doubled. Clara's hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of exposure. Her secret life, her brilliance, and the choices that forced her to hide it were all suddenly on the edge of being revealed. And now, with Mr. Howard watching her like never before, and her past threatening to collide with her present, everyone realized that this was more than a simple classroom challenge. Something far bigger and far more dangerous was about to unfold. The question hanging in the air was impossible to ignore. What would Clara do next? The room was silent again, heavier than before. Clara stepped forward, her chalk poised over the board. Every eye in the classroom was fixed on her, every breath held in anticipation. She looked at Mr. Howard, who had never seemed so small, so uncertain, despite all his authority. Then, with a calmness that stunned everyone, she began solving the final equation. Each line she wrote was deliberate, elegant, and flawless, unraveling the complex problem in a way that no one, including Mr. Howard, had imagined possible. As she finished, she turned to the class and spoke softly, yet with undeniable confidence. Brilliance isn't always in degrees or titles. Sometimes, it's in the patience to understand patterns others overlook. The students erupted in murmurs of amazement, realizing they had witnessed something extraordinary. Mr. Howard stared, speechless, a mixture of respect and humility in his eyes. For the first time, he felt what it was like to be outmatched, not by a student, but by someone he had underestimated completely. Then Clara did something unexpected. She wiped the board clean with a single sweep, leaving the complex solution gone as if it had never existed. "This," she said, "was never about proving myself to anyone. It's about showing that knowledge, when shared, has power far beyond competition." The students and teachers were stunned into silence, absorbing the weight of her words. Just as the tension began to settle, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her expression shifted from calm to sharply alert. A message flashed across the screen. "They know where you are. Be careful." Clara's eyes darted to Mr. Howard, who noticed the change immediately. The room that had celebrated her genius moments ago now held a new, darker uncertainty. The story ended not with applause, but with a question hanging over everyone. Who was after Clara, and how far would her hidden past reach into the world she had tried to leave behind? The simple woman who had stunned an elite teacher was now at the center of something far bigger and far more dangerous than anyone in that classroom could imagine. Clara slipped her phone into her pocket and took a deep breath, trying to steady the rush of thoughts. She looked around the classroom one last time. The students stared at her with a mix of awe and curiosity, their respect for her now complete. Even Mr. Howard, who had spent his career believing only certain minds could reach true brilliance, nodded slightly, acknowledging the truth he had resisted. Genius doesn't always wear a title or a uniform. Over the next few days, the school settled back into routine, but the air had changed. Clara returned to her quiet life, helping at the community center and keeping to her simple routines. Yet the students now sought her guidance in ways they never had before. She shared what she could, teaching them to see patterns, think critically, and value knowledge, not just for grades, but for understanding. Mr. Howard, too, began to adjust, incorporating a new sense of humility and openness into his teaching. He often watched Clara from afar, learning silently from her example, realizing that sometimes the greatest lessons came from those least expected. Clara's past remained largely a secret, but the brief exposure of her genius sparked a subtle ripple in the world around her. Invitations came from universities and research groups, yet she declined most, choosing instead to live a life that balanced knowledge with simplicity. She had learned that brilliance could be dangerous if wielded carelessly, and she valued her freedom above recognition. In the quiet moments, she reflected on the journey, from a simple woman underestimated by society to someone who could command respect without arrogance. As she closed her notebook one evening and walked home through the soft glow of the streetlights, Clara smiled faintly, knowing her life had changed in ways no one could predict. But that change had made the world just a little wiser, and herself a little stronger.